evening and welcome to your Thursday, December 11, 2025 edition of the Evening News. I am Jemima Holmes. Thank you for joining us. Let's take a look at some of the lead stories tonight. Venezuelan oil vessel seized by U.S. falsely using Guyana's flag, says MARAD. PSC advocates tax cuts, migrant worker policies in Budget 2026 proposals. High Court orders GNIC to vacate Charlestown WHARF. Enforces NICIL'S ownership. U.S. extradition requests, MOHAMEDS' lawyers can't stop proceedings despite High Court appeals, says AG. President Ali renews calls for more affordable domestic air travel. And Vagrant charged, remanded for breaking into and stealing from Home Affairs Ministry. Now for the news in detail. The Maritime Administration Department, MARAD, in Georgetown has raised concerns over the unauthorized use of the Guyana flag by a foreign oil tanker that was recently seized by the United States. Here are the details from Vanu Manikchand.
The Maritime Administration Department has stated that the motor tanker skipper, formerly known as ADISA and assigned IMO number 9304667, was encountered in international waters flying the Guyana flag despite not being registered in the country. The agency described the practice as unacceptable and pledged to work with international partners and maritime authorities to identify and take action against vessels falsely using the Guyana national flag. Based on international reports, U.S. authorities confirmed that the tanker was seized off the coast of Venezuela in a coordinated operation involving the FBI, Homeland Security, the Coast Guard, and military support. A 45-second video released by U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi showed helicopters approaching the vessel and armed personnel boarding it. The seizure follows U.S. sanctions against the vessel, which had been involved in transporting oil from Venezuela and Iran under its previous name, ADISA. Satellite and shipping data indicate that the skipper left a Venezuelan port between December 4 and 5, carrying approximately 1.1 million barrels of Mary heavy crude. The Venezuelan government denounced the seizure as blatant theft and an act of international piracy, vowing to defend its sovereignty and take the matter to international bodies. Meanwhile, this is not the first time this particular oil tanker has been caught with a false Guyana registration. Only last year, MARAD had raised concerns over the sanctioned vessel's false and fraudulent use of the Guyana flag. Nevertheless, MARAD on Wednesday reiterated its commitment to enforcing the proper use of the Guyana flag and stated it will continue collaborating with global maritime agencies to prevent similar incidents. Reporting for the Evening News, Vanu Manikchand.
Reduced taxes, wider investment incentives, and clearer policy measures for migrant workers are among the key recommendations the Private Sector Commission has put forward in its 2026 National Budget submission as the body presses for pro-business reforms to sustain growth and strengthen labor stability. Trishelle Sobers filed this report.
The Private Sector Commission PSC is pushing for a series of pro-business measures including reduced taxes, expanded incentives, and streamlined migrant worker policies as part of its formal submissions for Budget 2026. Its chairman, Captain Gerald Govaya Jr., outlined the organization's key priorities on Wednesday, emphasizing that the proposals reflect consultations with private sector bodies, regional chambers, and corporate members across the country. Govaya said the PSC Budget 2026 recommendations are currently being finalized.
Regarding the budget, every year the private sector is invited to propose our suggestions to the next year's budget. 2026 budget submissions are being compiled as we speak to be submitted. And with that comes consultation from across the different private sector business support organizations and regional chambers, as well as our corporate members for their input so that we can prepare a comprehensive list that's backed by evidence as to what measures we would like to see included in Budget 2026.
Are you at liberty to share what some of those measures might be?
That we are suggesting? In general, it'll be things like tax reductions in business operations. It'll be incentives for business communities. It could be things like examining areas of promoting migrant workers in Guyana.
He pointed to Guyana's unprecedented economic growth as the foundation for its recommendations. That rapid expansion, he said, has created widespread labor shortages, stressing that bringing in foreign workers is not a substitute for local employment, but a complementary measure. In fact, Gavaya hinted the need to a central process to integrate migrant workers into the already suffering local workforce.
There's no secret that there is a labor issue in Guyana. So whilst the private sector is promoting heavily the upskilling and inclusion of Guyanese in the workforce, we cannot hide from the fact that we need to make migrant workers a part of our economy if we want to continue the pace of growth in Guyana. So we see it across the board, from agriculture to construction to tourism, oil and gas, mining, forestry, service, ICT, healthcare. It really goes across the board. The sugar industry under the agriculture industry. So the idea is that it's really across the board. What we have found is that we need help in terms of the manpower, the technology, to continue to grow the economy at the pace that we've been growing it at. So in terms of the incentives that we're asking for, it's going to be looking at the process of bringing in migrant workers, streamlining that process from a legislative perspective, as well as from a financial perspective, the financial economic implications of foreign work in Guyana.
When questioned about better wages for local workers, Gavaya said the private sector wage environment is already rising well above the legal minimum. But PSC is also pressing for the modernization of employee benefit taxation. Trishelle Sobers, Evening News.
We are now joined by Michael Henry, who reports that the High Court has ruled in favor of the National Industrial and Commercial Investments Limited, NICIL, in its long-running property dispute with the Guyana National Industrial Company, Inc., GNIC, and International Fishing Investment Company Limited.
The judgment delivered on December 10, 2025 by Justice Fidela Corbin Lincoln addressed claims for possession, trespass, and damages related to properties situated at Area X, Charlestown, Georgetown. NICIL'S claim arose from a lease agreement originally executed between the Guyana National Engineering Company and GNIC in 1995, later assigned to NICIL through a supplemental lease agreement in 2002. The lease stipulated a 15-year term with an option for renewal and an annual rent of $70.5 million. NICIL alleged that GNIC failed to deliver possession of the property after the lease expired on November 1, 2010, and that IFI had unlawfully occupied part of the property since 1996. GNIC argued that it had properly exercised the lease renewal option in 2009 and claimed NICIL was stopped from asserting the lease had expired, citing substantial improvements made to the property at its own cost. The company also contended that any arrears of rent prior to January 2019 were statute barred. In its defense, NICIL maintained that GNIC was in breach of lease conditions at the time it sought to exercise the renewal option. Breaches included failure to pay rent and arbitration awards, unauthorized subletting of portions of the property, and non-payment of insurance premiums. NICIL argued that these breaches invalidated GNIC's request to extend the lease and that the company was required to vacate the premises upon the lease's expiration. Justice Corbin Lincoln ruled that GNIC had failed to meet the conditions precedent for renewing the lease. Specifically, the court found that GNIC was in subsisting breach of its obligations to pay rent and not to sublet without NICIL's consent. As a result, the court determined that the lease ended on November 1, 2010, and that GNIC thereafter held the property as a statutory tenant under the Rent Restriction Act. Regarding NICIL'S request for possession, the court ordered GNIC to deliver up possession of the property by June 12, 2026. The court also clarified that GNIC's claim for mezanine profits failed, as statutory tenants are not considered trespassers. In relation to IFI, the court found that the company had occupied the Sussex Street Wharf portion of the property without NICIL'S consent since 1996 and had failed to provide evidence of lawful tenancy. IFI was declared a trespasser and ordered to vacate the property by February 27, 2026. Mishael Henry, The Evening News.
The Ministry of Health's Health Sciences Education Division marked a major achievement on Wednesday with the graduation of 30 X-ray technicians and 21 medical laboratory technicians. These professionals will be deployed across the country as the government continues to build a modern healthcare sector. Here are the details from Davina Samaru.
The graduation ceremony on Wednesday underscored government's continued commitment to enhancing Guyana's diagnostic capacity through rigorous, high-quality training programs. Over the past year, graduates completed comprehensive academic coursework paired with extensive hands-on clinical training, equipping them with the competencies needed to support the country's expanding modern diagnostic services. Delivering the keynote address at the event at the Pegasus Suites, Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony spoke about the investments the government has been making in the area of imaging services.
We took a decision that we want to make sure that all systems across the public health system, that we will only have digital X-rays. So no longer should we be trying to wash films and then holding it up to the light and that sort of thing, because in some ways, you know, that's not very useful. And when you are using analog systems, sometimes if you don't get the right image, you have to go back, call back the patient, and a whole host of things. With the new digital systems that we've introduced, we can take the image, we can enhance these images, and we can look for different things that we need to try to visualize so that we can make better diagnosis for those patients. And I think with these systems that we've been using, we've been able to see the difference between analog and digital.
Dr. Anthony also spoke about the use of artificial intelligence at the Enmore Regional Hospital.
Where images that are generated at Enmore, we can read them using this AI technology. And so when you put the image into this AI system, within 14 seconds, it would tell you whether it's normal or whether it has a pathology. And if it has a pathology, it would be able to point out the area where that pathology exists. And then the doctor would be able to read the image, and if you want a preliminary diagnosis by the software, it would actually be able to tell you that preliminary diagnosis, because we have trained the AI using multiple sets of data, and so you would be able to get that, and that can then be verified by the radiologist.
Soon, the government will be introducing more imaging equipment such as CT scans and MRIs at hospitals across the country. In fact, 40 new digital X-ray machines will be installed in regions 2, 3, 7, 8, and 9 within the next few months. Meanwhile, in the area of laboratory science, the health minister said the government will be introducing a paperless laboratory information system.
So this is going to be a standardized information system that is across all our laboratories. And so when a sample comes into the lab, that should be done in a very seamless way. We want to move away from paper. So a lot of our systems are paper-based. So you got to write some requests, then it comes to the lab, they rewrite something there in some book, then it goes to somebody, they're writing all the time. We want to move away from that. This must be a paperless system. And so we are investing in making sure that our laboratory systems across the country would be paperless.
He also revealed that the government will be developing a Level 3 lab which will deal with dangerous pathogens. In this regard, Dr. Anthony emphasized that opportunities abound for professionals to continue advancing their careers as government continues to invest in a world-class healthcare sector.
I want to emphasize that this is not the end of your journey. This is just the beginning. And that, to me, is a very important thing. This is just the beginning. So continue striving for success and work with us here in the ministry with all the tutors and everybody else. We want you to work and have that ambition of being the best in your field. Once you do that, I'm sure you'll be extremely successful.
Reporting for the Evening News, Davina Samaru.
Coming up, vagrant charge remanded for breaking into and stealing from Home Affairs Ministry and U.S. extradition requests. Mohamed's lawyers can't stop proceedings despite High Court appeal, says AG. Do stay with us. More news ahead.
Vehicle owners, are you looking for quality front hubs, replacement bumpers, exhaust flex and pipes, alternators, starters, power steering pumps, AC evaporators, and much more for your vehicles? Well, Sylvie's Automotive Solutions should be your first choice. Come on down to our Lot 44 High Street, Georgetown location and take advantage of our competitive prices. Give us a call on 225-4360 or WhatsApp us on 610-0347.
In today's tough driving conditions, every engine faces three powerful enemies: engine heat, pollutants, and frequent short trips. Each factor is a direct cause of engine sludge, a buildup of dirt that can block vital oilways. This triple threat demands triple protection. Castrol GTX's Triple Protect Power is engineered to fight these three main causes of engine sludge.
Looking to bring your dream home to reality? Or simply taking on a home improvement project? Then National Hardware Limited is where you should start. Let us put that touch to your home. Choose from over 1,000 Berger Paint original hues for any surface. We are known for our trusted brands such as Westinghouse, Philips, Sadco, Rubbermaid, Pyrex, Gibson Home, and so much more. National Hardware Limited, your do-it-best store. Located in downtown Georgetown and industrial site Rhymeville.
Ping pong from Charles Chocolates, bounce into flavor.
Ping pong, everybody wants some. Roasted peanuts is the true #1. Ping pong, you better get a handful. This chocolate is so incredible. What's the snack everybody craves for? Ping pong, bounce into flavor. Chocolate coated peanuts, delicious, top class, A+. Ping pong from Charles Chocolates, bounce into flavor.
Welcome back. you're watching the evening news. The government is keen on creating linkages between the hinterland regions and the coastline. President Dr. Irfan Ali has renewed his calls to local operators to make domestic air travel more affordable for Guyanese. Here's Vanu Manikchand with the details.
In his remarks at the recent launch of the Guyana Next Generation of Aviation Professionals and Air Transport Cadet Program, President Dr. Irfan Ali noted that while more international carriers are coming to Guyana and opening up new routes, the domestic aviation network is also expanding and will continue to grow through investments, both public and private.
We are a nation of vast, rich, beautiful interior and coastlands. Our mission is to integrate them, to connect them, to link urban to rural and urban and rural to hinterland, not just by road or river, but by the most powerful connector of all, the air. We will link the deep reaches of our country to the coastland. We'll connect community to opportunity, miner to market, farmer to frontier. This is not a distant dream. It is our flight plan.
According to the head of state, his government is investing in the necessary infrastructure such as municipal airports at Lethem and Rose Hall in Berbice, as well as hinterland airstrips to support this vision, all in the name of making domestic travel affordable for Guyanese.
We have placed a significant bet on our aviation future by offering generous incentives to the sector. And I've already made a direct call for a reduction in fares because domestic air travel must be made more affordable. It cannot become a luxury. Our vision demands that people can fly in and out of our remote communities without great financial strain. But cheaper and larger cargo planes are reliably coming on stream and coming very quickly. Every Guyanese would have the opportunity to see the breathtaking beauty of our country from land, river, and air. True national connectivity means affordable access for all.
Only last month, President Ali had revealed that with the incentives offered by government, the local aviation sector is financially capable of lowering domestic air transport fares by as much as 15%. Moreover, back in May, Vice President Dr. Bart Jagdeo had announced that the government is contemplating investing in a commercial arm of the Guyana Defense Force in order to compete with domestic airlines that continue to exploit consumers. Reporting for the Evening News, Vanu Manikchand.
The Private Sector Commission has recommended that the Guyana Elections Commission upgrade its digital statement of polls system, overhaul its communication strategy, and standardize voting booth layouts on the basis that these improvements are necessary to enhance public confidence and ensure greater transparency in future elections. Trishul Sobers has the details.
The Private Sector Commission PSC is calling on the Guyana Elections Commission GECOM to further strengthen several operational areas ahead of future elections, including the refinement of its digital statement of polls SOPs system, enhancement to public communication, and the standardization of voting booth layouts across the country. PSC Chairman Captain Gerald Govaya Jr. made the recommendations during the release of the Commission's comprehensive 2025 General and Regional Elections Observation Report, one of the most extensive private sector-led monitoring efforts in Guyana's history. Speaking to media operatives on Wednesday, Govaya acknowledged public concern that both booth configurations may have risked the appearance of compromised ballot secrecy, while PSC observers found no evidence that any voter's ballot was exposed or that secrecy was violated. He said the issue demonstrated the need for an agreed and uniform booth design. Additionally, the PSC chairman strongly praised GECOM's decision to publish all SOPs online within 24 hours, calling it one of the most important transparency measures ever implemented. However, Govaya stressed the need to make the digital system faster and more efficient.
The further refinement of the digital SOP publication, we must commend GECOM for their initiative in creating probably the most transparent move in publishing all the SOPs online for the public to see. Whilst it is a new technology that they're implementing, there is room for improvement, and we will be open to working with GECOM to create more efficiency in that system. For the digital SOP publication, it will really be coming down to using more technology to speed up the process of which, from the time that the SOPs are prepared to the time that it's published, and just creating more efficiency there. Keeping that in mind, we have gone from a system where when SOPs were created in the past, it used to take days to get into the public's hands, and in some cases over a week. This time, within 24 hours, we had all the SOPs for public consumption, and I think that that is a massive improvement. However, we would like to see that system, with the use of technology, to improve.
Further, Gavaya said that while GECOM improved its public education efforts with support from the United Nations Development Program UNDP, gaps remain, particularly during the election period, on election day, and during tabulation and recounts. The PSC is requesting structured dialogue with GECOM on state media usage and messaging standards during elections.
So we're well aware that the UN did a lot of work with GECOM to improve its education, public awareness systems. However, where we see room for improvement is specifically during the election cycle, on elections day, and during the tabulation and recount processes, where if they have a more robust communication strategy, they can put their messages out there and combat any opportunities of misinformation that we're circulating. So that would be one of the recommendations that we would have for their communication structure and strategy.
The PSC concluded that the 2025 general and regional elections were conducted in a credible and transparent manner, with results that reflect the will of the electorate. The PSC deployed 150 trained observers across key regions, supported by a fully staffed observer coordination center operating from August 29 to September 4. Key findings include polling stations opened on time and were well managed. GECOM staff act professionally and impartially. Strong multi-party oversight was present, including People's Progressive Party Civic, a partnership for national unity, and We Invest in Nationhood representatives. The recount and tabulation processes were transparent, consistent, and rule-based, and no evidence was found to support public allegations regarding voter list issues, ballot secrecy breaches, or undue influence. Trishelle Sobers, Evening News.
Once again, here's Trishelle Sobers to report that Attorney General Anil Nandlal has made it clear that the High Court appeal, to be filed by attorneys for Nazar and Azruddin Mohammed, does not pause or prevent the ongoing extradition proceedings against them, stressing that a U.S. request for extradition must continue uninterrupted unless a court expressly orders otherwise.
On Tuesday, Principal Magistrate Judy Latchman dismissed the constitutional application filed by U.S. indicted businessmen Nazar and Azruddin Mohammed, ruling that the arguments presented by their attorneys had already been conclusively settled by Guyana's higher courts and did not warrant further consideration at the magistrate level. She described the application as frivolous and vexatious and an abuse of process, noting that the defense had not raised any new or unsettled legal issues. The magistrate also clarified that older case law cited by the defense, including the Dataram ruling, was outdated and not applicable under the Fugitive Offenders Amendment Act 2009. Subsequently, Attorney General Anil Nandlal emphasized that the extradition proceedings against U.S. indicted businessmen Nazar and Azruddin Mohammed will continue following Principal Magistrate Judy Latchman's dismissal of their constitutional challenge. Nandlal told another section of the media that while the defense retains the right to approach the High Court, such action does not automatically suspend or delay proceedings in the magistrate's court.
One cannot stop persons from approaching the High Court. That is a right available to them. But that doesn't translate into a stay of the proceedings in the magistrate's court. And that's what's important. Barring, of course, they are able to get an order from the High Court. staying the magistrate. Because the magistrate, having ruled that the questions are frivolous and vexatious, the magistrate must now proceed, as she has indicated she will do.
Addressing claims by the defense regarding the authority to proceed issued by the Home Affairs Minister, Nanlal said the argument was raised unusually late after the magistrate had already ruled. He clarified that the authority is not a standardized document under the Fugitive Offenders Act, instead solely to authorize the magistrate to handle the extradition requests in accordance with the law. Nanlal also addressed concerns over the diplomatic note submitted by the United States, describing it as a common international practice in extradition matters. He said the note fully complies with domestic and international law and does not undermine the extradition proceedings.
The contention, as I understand it, is that the authority to proceed ought to have contained the Guyanese equivalent of the offenses for which the extradition proceedings relate. There is no such requirement. Anyone who listening to me can go at the back of the Fugitive Offenders Act and they will see the authority to proceed form, and they will see that there is no allowance for any such item to be included. What the Minister of Home Affairs is authorizing the magistrate to do is to proceed with the extradition request that she has received, the magistrate, the Home Affairs Minister, in accordance with law.
The father-son duo remains on $150,000 bail each and must report to the police as the extradition case continues. They are wanted in the United States on several counts of fraud and money laundering charges tied to coal exports. Guyana only received the formal extradition request on October 30, 2025, under the U.S.-UK treaty, which remains in force through local laws. Trishelle Sobers, Evening News.
The Georgetown Mayor and City Council will be working closely with ENA Consultancy, the firm contracted by the Government of Guyana, to spearhead the modernization of the East Penitence Market. Let's hear from Michael Henry, who has more details.
As in-depth analysis of the Le Penitence market structure proceeds, His Worship Mayor Alfred Mento expressed satisfaction with the proposed upgrades and reaffirmed the Council's willingness to collaborate for the betterment of stallholders and vendors. Mento noted that as Guyana is now an oil-producing nation, the systems and infrastructure being implemented must reflect this new era of development and embrace forward-thinking approaches to city and nation building.
Today's activity or site visit here at the Penitence or the Albistown Market is one that derived from the Government of Guyana themselves seeking to place some emphasis on this market. We know the challenges and the background of this market, the valleys, the drainage. This is an old rickety market that needs financial investment. Even if you should remodel or rehabilitate this market, it will cost you the same amount of money technically. So what is the common position that we've taken on this particular market is that we take it down and we put her back a new market.
He further noted that the council is also assessing additional properties in the area to determine how adjustments can be integrated as the redevelopment of the East Le Penitence market advances.
We also have some other properties nearby that we'll look at, and we'll see how we could fit that adjustment in place while we look to address this market and to bring about those particular changes. We know Guyana itself is a booming oil economy, and markets of this nature need the kind of investments to look like an oil economy. We can't be operating in such a tardy fashion in an economy that has so much of wealth and so much of resources. So I guess those resources, or some of those resources, from an oil perspective, from the central government, has to come to these markets and these general infrastructure developments.
The team has agreed to review the overall redevelopment plan for the market, with E&A Consultancy expected to submit a design proposal. That proposal will be redefined as needed, with considerations for a ground floor and a partial second floor to accommodate additional vendors. The aim, he noted, is to have the new market operational within roughly a year and a half. The mayor added that restoring the market will be a major source of pride for the community, especially given the recent events at the site. Michael Henry, The Evening News.
Days after breaking into the Home Affairs Ministry and stealing several items, including laptops, the perpetrator, 48-year-old Neil Medas, also called Shoulders, a vagrant, was charged and remanded to prison. Medas appeared before Magistrate Faith McGusty at the Georgetown Magistrates Court on Wednesday, where 5 counts of break-and-enter and larceny charges were read to him. In addition to the ministry, he was also accused of breaking into the Ptolemy Reed Rehabilitation Center and robbing 3 persons. The crimes were reportedly committed on December 8, 2025. However, he pled guilty to the charges and he was remanded to prison pending a probation report and sentencing. He will make his next court appearance on January 7, 2026. It was reported that on the day in question, the accused broke into the ministry's Brickdam, Georgetown office and stole laptop computers, electronic tablets, and digital cameras. Medas reportedly pried open a window located at the eastern side washroom on the lower flat to gain entry into the building. CCTV footage subsequently led to the arrest of the suspect and the repossession of several stolen items. And now for a look at the bridge reports.
The Berbice River Bridge will be closed to vehicular traffic on Friday, December 12, 2025 at 11 hours for a period of 1.5 hours.
25 million KFC Grandstand commissioned at MOE ground, and Trans-Guyana adds support to KFC Goodwill Tournament. These and more coming up in this evening's Sportcast, sponsored by MacHorp. Welcome back to this evening's Sportcast, sponsored by MacHorp. A $25 million investment on Wednesday evening came to fruition with the commissioning of the KFC Pavilion at the Ministry of Education ground, Carafesta Avenue, Georgetown, greatly improving the accommodations at the venue. Here's more. Teams, parents, and fans alike will now enjoy the comfort of better, sheltered seating accommodations at the Ministry of Education ground on Carafesta Avenue, Georgetown, following the commissioning of the KFC stands at the venue on Wednesday evening. A $25 million commitment that was made by the fast food giant back in October so as to ensure elevated seating for the upcoming KFC Goodwill Tournament. The stands at the venue were erected in a matter of weeks. During the pavilion's commissioning ceremony, KFC Guyana's CEO Paul Sobrian described the project as KFC's commitment to Guyanese sport and arts.
And a young company such as ours, we're able to do fantastic things like this. A demonstration of our commitment to the development of infrastructure for sports, for the local arts. We are very, very committed. We are very, very grateful for the support that we continue to get across this country. KFC is a brand that has embedded itself throughout Guyana, and in whatever way we can support our communities, we want to do that. It also depends on a budget, but with Guyana's continued support for KFC, I think we can make it happen.
Coordinators of the KFC Goodwill Tournament Petro Organization oversaw the project as co-director Troy Mendonça spoke of the birth of the idea. He also credited the government while highlighting the need for public-private partnerships.
And now every time it's a set of tents we have to deal with, and we keep asking, we say to the sponsors, look, we want to make these parents comfortable, we want to make these players comfortable. Unfortunately, we had a conversation with KFC, who I presume at the time were looking how they can contribute to society, how they can contribute to communities. And so this idea was mentioned to them, and they understand exactly what our plea was, and they fulfill. It just don't only go to say KFC, because the space here had to be provided by the government. And the government had to also support the idea of us putting lights here. And so the Ministry of Education has demonstrated how private sector and government relationship can be built and nurtured in a way that gonna support our society and our nation as a whole.
Meanwhile, Chief Education Officer for Hinterland Marty D'Souza labeled KFC's move as the definition of exercising corporate social responsibility.
Now, this is what corporate social responsibility looks like. It's not all about taking, it's not all about eating. It is about giving back. It's about giving back to our people, giving back to our, more importantly, our young people. And what you have done in collaboration with Petra, I think we at the Ministry of Education recognizes it dearly, and as such, I want to give you a round of applause.
Fans will not have to wait too long to utilize the new KFC Grandstand, as the Goodwill International Tournament is set to kick off this Sunday, December 14, at the venue. For the Evening News Sport, Jemima Holmes.